Hey, Gap Math students, this is a video for percents, ratios, and proportions 22 through 26. This one's going to be not super long, but maybe a little longer than some, not as long as the last. But the one thing about this one is this one's a very useful one, kind of in everyday life. There's a lot of areas, jobs, and things where you will use this type of stuff. We're going to really start looking at solving proportions now. And so that's a lot of times involves finding a missing value. Could be like in construction and baking, money, a lot of money issues, things like that. You could use proportions to solve. So the first thing we're going to do is we have a couple objectives that deal with ratios first. And ratios are just comparing two values in some sort of way. And the thing I want to just look at some general notes on ratios is different ways they can be written. So one way they can use is like something like 4 to 6. So that would be like if you're baking something, 4 cups of one thing to 6 cups of another for a recipe or something. So it would be 4 to 6. That, other ways that can be written, instead of writing out the word 2, you can write it like that with a colon in between. This would still be read 4 to 6. That can also be written as a fraction with the first number on top and the second number on the bottom. So 4, you'd say, you could read that as 4 to 6 if you know it's a ratio, or you could say it's 4 6. The other thing you can do with ratios, if it makes sense in certain problems, is because it can be written as a fraction, it can be reduced. So another way we could write this ratio, if we treat this as a fraction, and notice that 4 and 6, 2 can go into both of those. So we could divide the top by 2 and divide the bottom by 2. So with a fraction, if you do the same thing in the top and bottom, it stays an equivalent fraction. So 4 divided by 2 is 2, 6 divided by 2 is 3. So if I use the recipe example, if it was 4 cups of one thing to 6 cups of another, if we wanted to make half as much, we would use the ratio 2 to 3. Okay. This can also be written as, going the other way. You could use this. That's 2 to 3. Okay. Top number goes first, bottom number goes second. And then again, also, you could use it as the word. So just kind of showing you all these would mean the same thing. So there's different ways to write it, and then you can also reduce them and things like that. So what we're going to do first is start out with kind of the couple of the easier ones. So we're going to skip a few problems here first. And we're going to look at objective 22 first, just determine what the ratio is, and then 23, what ratios are equivalent. Okay, so we'll kind of flip around here, and you're going to flip the page and go to problem number 58 first. So we're going to look at the equivalent ratios first. So the way to find equivalent ratios, there's 2 ways you can do this. So one way, first of all, either way, I'm going to set them up as a fraction. So I'm going to start and write it like this. So one way you can do it, if you really don't like fractions, write this as a decimal. Especially with multiple choice, this will work. So you're going to take the top divided by the bottom. Remember, that's always what you do. Top divided by bottom, and that equals 0.3. Okay. So then now it says which 2 ratios are equivalent to this. Now what you would do is both answers have to be correct. So you got to divide. Remember, first would be like the top number, second is like the bottom number. So you're going to divide these and see what you get for decimals. Now they both to be the right answer, they both have to be 0.3. So I'm going to take 3 divided by 30, and that equals 0.1. Now, if one of them is not, I don't even have to test this one because 0.1 is not 0.3. So this cannot be it. Okay. Letter B, 3 divided by 10. Well, that's 3/10, which is 0.3. So now I got to test this one. 9 divided by 50 is 0.18. So this one is out because they're not both 0.3. Letter C, we did 10 up here, so this would be the same, 0.3. And I'm going to do 15 divided by 50. That also equals 0.3, so that should be our answer. Now, if you wanted to, you could test down here, 15 divided by 30, that's 0.5, so that's out. So that would be our correct answer. Another way of doing this, either if you're good at fractions, or if for some reason this is a real life example and you don't have multiple choice, you would look at reducing this fraction. Okay, that would be the first step. So now there's a pretty big number that goes in both, but if you didn't notice that, this ends in 5, this ends in 0. So you could divide by 5, and you'd get 9 over 30. And then maybe notice again, like, oh, 3 goes into both of these. So you get 9 divided by 3 is 3, 30 divided by 3 is 10. So I divided by 3, or divided by 5, and then divided by 3. So I could have, if I would have noticed, 15 goes into both of these right away. 45 divided by 15 would give me the 3. 150 divided by 15 would give me the 10. So now I know that's one of my equivalent fractions. So B and C would be it. And then I'd have to see which one of these would work to get to the second fractions here. So if I had 3/10 and I wanted to get 9 on the top, I'd have to multiply by 3. And that means I have to multiply the bottom by 3, and I'd get 30. But this had 9 and 50, so that would be wrong. The other way I could do it, this has 15 on the top, so that means times 5. And then times the bottom by 5 gives me the 50, which I have here. So if this doesn't make sense to you, that's okay. What you would do then is what I did first. Take the fraction, divide it, get the decimal, and see which one of these choices has both those equal to the same decimal. Okay, let's maybe do one more of that type. So we're going to, the next type like that is on the next page, 62. So I'll probably just do this the decimal way because I think most of you will do it that way. If you want help with this, doing it the fraction way, just let me know. I can do a separate video or just help you one-on-one. So we got 5 over 60. So I'm going to take 5 divided by 60. And that gives me 0.08333333. So the 3 is repeating. So I need both my answers here to equal this. So I just go to letter A, take 10 divided by 24. And that gives me 0.416 repeating. So that's not correct. So I don't even have to test this one because they both have to equal this. So that's out. Next one, 15 divided by 48. That gives me 0.3125. So that is out. Letter C, 1 divided by 12. That gives me 0.083 repeating. So far we're good, but again, this one has 112. So this one would be 0.083 repeating. So now I got to check the second ones in both of these. So 15 divided by 144. That gives me 0.104 something something. So that's out. This should be the right answer, but let's double check. 3 divided by 36 is 0.083 repeating. So that's my right answer. Okay, so that's the first type of problem. Okay, finding which ones are equivalent ratios. Okay, Now I'm going to go back, and then we're going to look at the next type of problem, and then we'll start solving proportions. So the next type is just writing a ratio. We're going to look at number 57 here. The masses of various dried woods are compared. The mass of a cubic meter of ash is 540 kilograms. The mass of a cubic meter of willow is 420 kilograms. It says, what is the ratio of the mass of cubic meter of willow to the mass of cubic meter of ash? So the key here, you're going to look at the question, and they're going to give you whatever your items you're looking at. You got that. So they're giving you one item you're looking at, and then the word two, and then the other item you're supposed to compare it with. Okay, so now you always go in order of how they ask the question. So they want willow to ash. It doesn't matter which order they give you the information in, you want the order they say it. So they say willow to ash. So first to second. So whatever they say first would go on top. So they want willow on top, which is, they want ash on the bottom, which is 540. Okay, so now, again, there's two ways you could do this. You could do the decimal, or you could do the fraction. So the decimal, you would just hit 420 divided by 540, and you get 0.7 repeating. Okay, because again, these are reduced fractions. They're not what we have here. Okay, so if we had to look at these, we'd go through and type these in. 14 divided by 9, which is going to be more than 1, so that'll be out. It's 1.5 repeating. 9 divided by 7 is 1.28, and then some other numbers. So again, it's over 1. 7 divided by 9 is 0.7 repeating, 0.7777. So that should be the correct answer. I could always test the last one. Type that in, you get 0.79 and then some numbers. Okay, so that would be out. So that's one way of doing it. If you're good with fractions, you might be able to do this faster without testing. These both end in 0, so right away you could divide by 10 and make the number smaller. Okay, and then you could notice, you know, if you wanted to, 2 goes into both, they're both even, you could divide by 2, but and then you'd have to do it again because there's actually a bigger number that goes into both, which is 6. And it's 42 divided by 6 is 7, 54 divided by 6 is 9. If you didn't notice this, you could divide by 2 again, and you get 21 over 27, and then you divide by 3, and then you get the 7/9, and there's your answer. Okay, so that's how you do that one, both decimal and fraction ways. Let's look at just one more of those, and we'll start solving proportions. It's kind of the main stuff of this one. So 61 says glide ratio of an airborne object is the ratio of its horizontal movement to its decrease in altitude. So if that doesn't make sense to you right now, no big deal. Let's get to the question. And it says, as a hang glider drops 80 feet in altitude, it also moves 840 feet horizontally. What is the glide ratio of the hang glider? So the glide ratio, they say in this first sentence, of an object is the ratio of its horizontal movement to its decrease in altitude. So horizontal movement goes on top, decrease in altitude goes on the bottom. So it says, as a hang glider drops 80 feet. So drops, you got to think, is that horizontal or is that decrease in altitude? Okay, so if you don't know some of these words, that might be a little tough, but altitude is how high it is, and it's going to drop. So I'm guessing that that should be the decrease in altitude and should go on the bottom. But let's keep reading on. Maybe there's a better hint. It says it also moves 840 feet horizontally. Well, that's what it says for the first. They want horizontal movement on the top. So that is the 840. And then to its decrease in altitude is 80. Okay, So again, if we're going to do this decimal, we take 840 divided by 80, which gives me 10.5. Now, again, we're going to look at which one of these would work. In this one, the top number is bigger than the bottom. So if any one of these choices have the top number smaller, we can cross it out. So that's bigger than the bottom, bigger than the bottom. This is smaller than the bottom, that's out. It's not going to, there's no way it's going to equal a number 10.5. And then this one could be possible. So if you're doing it the decimal way, now you're going to test these. So we're going to do 21 divided by 4. That equals 5.25, so that's out. 10 over 1, well, that's equal to 10. Because 10 divided by 1 is 10, so that's out. 21 divided by 2 equals 10.5. That's the correct answer. Okay, again, if you're doing a fraction, you can divide each by 10 first, and you get 84 over 8. And then 4 is going to go into both of these, and you get your 21 over 2. Okay, again, if fractions aren't your strong point, you can do it decimal and then test your answers. Okay, all right, so those are the first two objectives. Now we're going to look at the next three, which are very similar. You're going to use the same kind of method to solve them. Okay, so I won't even read through these. It's basically finding a missing value. Okay, and I'm going to go through and kind of explain how to do these, and we'll go through quite a few examples. The hardest part of these problems is just setting it up. The math to do them is not going to be hard. Okay, so let's read through this one, then I'll kind of talk about what to do. It says a survey of 110 dog owners showed that 7 out of 10 owners had their dogs spayed or neutered. How many of the owners had not had their dogs spayed or neutered? So first thing you're going to do, there's always going to be like 3 numbers given to you, and you need to find the missing one. So there's going to be a pair of numbers, so 2 numbers that kind of go together, and then there's going to be a third number that has an unknown value to go with it. 7 out of 10 go together. Okay, 7 out of 10 had their dogs spayed or neutered. So it means if there was 10 owners, 7 of them had their dogs spayed or neutered. This 110 is a given value, and it has an unknown value to go with it. So what that I will refer to that as the unknown pair. Okay, and that's what you want to find first. Okay, so and find out what they're talking about for that pair. So it says 110 dog owners, and what they're looking for in the question is how many had not had their dog spayed or neutered. Okay, so the pair that we don't know is going to be dog owners and how many of them had not had their dog spayed or neutered. So that's what I'm going to set up first. Okay, I'll use DO for dog owners, and I'm going to write no SN, no spayed or neutered. So that's what I'm going to set up. So I've gotten in the habit of setting up the unknown pair first. Now, you don't have to do it this way, but so in the unknown pair, we know one of these. The number of dog owners is 110. How many had not had them spayed or neutered is what we're looking for. Okay. Now we're going to set up another ratio over here, and then when we set 2 ratios equal, that's called a proportion, and that's what we can solve pretty easy. So what we have here now, if you've done these in the past, a lot of times you're just using these 2 numbers and putting it in here. Now sometimes that can work, either 7 over 10 or 10 over 7. But we really need to look at the unknown pair. It talks about dog owners and how many did not have them spayed or neutered. This known pair is, this would be the dog owners. Okay. The 7 represents how many had their pet spayed or neutered. So this would be a yes, spayed or neutered. Now what we need to know, so we had 7 yes to 10 total owners. Okay, but we need to have total owners, so dog owners, and not spayed and neutered. So if there's 10 total and 7 of them are yes, how many are no? Okay, well, if there's only yes or no's, if 7 are yes, that means 3 have to be no. Now this is what we're going to use to help us solve. Now we just have to make sure we set it up properly. We put dog owners on top, and we put not spayed or neutered on the bottom. Okay. Now to solve this, and hopefully you remember this term, we're going to cross multiply and divide, meaning we take the diagonal with 2 numbers, so the 110 and the 3, and we're going to divide it by the third number. So we're going to take 110 times 3 and divide it by that 10. Okay, so you're going to take 110 times 3, which is 330. We're going to divide it by 10, and we get 33, which is here. Now, I'm not going to do this for all problems, but I just want to show you if we set it up opposite. So if we put not spayed or neutered on top and the total dog owners on the bottom, then it would look like this. But as long as we set it up accurately, not spayed or neutered in the known pair or the sample was 3 out of 10. Now, if you look, the cross multiply and divide is the same. We get 110 times 3, which we have here, divided by the third number is 10. You'll get the same answer. So there's always going to be a couple different ways to solve these. Okay, so let's keep doing a couple different problems. Some of them will be similar, some of them will have a couple little differences in them. So I want to go over a few here just to make sure we cover all types. 53, a tea company is making a special blend of 2 teas for the customer. The ratio of Kenyan tea to, I don't even know how you say that, Darjeeling tea is a blend of 4 to 5. So 4 to 5. So that would be the known pair. Well, now we need to look at the question. It says how much Darjeeling tea is in 90 ounces of the blend. Now, so the unknown pair, we're looking for the Darjeeling tea and how much of it when we have 90 ounces of the blend. So the blend means total. Okay. So when we set this up, we don't know, we're looking for how much of the Darjeeling, but we know we're looking for how much of that is there when there's 90 ounces total. Okay, now be careful, don't just go 4 to 5 or 5 to 4. It could end up that way, but look at what they give you. They say 4 to 5, which is Kenyan to Darjeeling. But we want Darjeeling in total. Okay, so if we want Darjeeling in total, Darjeeling is the 5, right? Well, if there's 4 Kenyan and 5 Darjeeling, how many is that total? Well, 4 and 5 together is 9. Okay, now these are the numbers. So they didn't straight out tell us it's supposed to be 5 and 9, but we can figure it out. So the known pair then is if you have 5 ounces of Darjeeling, you have 9 ounces total. Okay, now some of you might be able to look at this and solve, otherwise use your cross multiply and divide. The diagonal 2 numbers is 90 times 5 divided by the other number. So we get 450 divided by 9, and we get an answer of 50. The other way you could have looked at that is from 9 to 90, you'd have to multiply by 10. So 5 times 10 would be 50. That would be our answer. Okay, so stuff they give you in each of these, we'll do a few more here. The stuff they give you in each of these problems might be a little different, but the process is going to be the same. Okay, so let's do another one. Make sure we follow this process. 54, a pizza vendor at an outdoor festival is going to sell slices of cheese pizza and slices of pepperoni. She noticed last year the ratio of pepperoni slices to total slices was 7 to 12. So this is pepperoni to total. And that she sold 504 pepperoni slices. How many cheese slices did they sell last year? Now, there is a way you could figure it out and then do subtraction and stuff, but I want you to have one method for all these problems. So let's do the same method. Let's figure out the unknown pair. The question is, how many cheese slices? Okay. So, and that could go on the bottom, but it says how many cheese slices, and then we want to know when. It's how many cheese slices for what? Last year when they sold 504 pepperoni. So the unknown pair is, if you have 504 pepperoni, how many cheese do you have? Okay, so if we fill this in, 504 is the pepperoni. Cheese is what we don't know. That's what we're looking for. So now for the known pair on this side, we need to fill in this. Okay, well, right now, what they gave us was 7 pepperoni when there's 12 total. We want cheese and pepperoni. Okay, so we can keep the 7 here for pepperoni. Well, if there's 7 pepperoni and 12 total, if we take out the 7 pepperoni, that leaves 5 to be cheese. And so that's what we need to know. Okay, so that's our known pair. Now, again, they didn't tell us those numbers, but with what they told us, we can figure it out. So there's 5 cheese when there's 7 pepperoni. Now, again, solve, cross multiply. So we're going to take 504 times 5, divide by the third number. So 504 times 5 is 2,520. We're going to divide that by 7, and we get 360. Okay, and that should make sense because if they're selling 7 out of the 12 are pepperoni, I mean 7 are pepperoni, 5 are cheese, so you should be selling more pepperoni. So the 360 is less than the 504 pepperoni. Okay. All right. So let's see. I'm going to do maybe just looking at 3 more problems. I'm just looking at which ones I want to do. So let's go 55 and then we'll turn the page. So 55 looks like an easy one, but you have to do it the same way. You know, it's very short. It says in a company with 288 employees, the ratio of men to women is 9 to 7. How many employees are men? Okay, so it says what they're looking for is men. Well, and they're looking for how many employees are men when what? When there are 288 employees. So that's a total number. That doesn't distinguish men and women. They're saying we have 288. How many are men? Okay, so this here was men to women, which was 9 to 7. Well, we don't want men to women. We want men to total. So men is still 9. Well, if we want men to total, if there are 9 men and 7 women, what's the total? 9 men, 7. That means 16. So we have 9 men when there's 16 total. So that is our known pair. All right, so now we can set this up. We don't know the number of men when there's 288 total employees. So that's what we're looking for. But we do know there's 9 men when there's 16 total employees, which we found right here. So again, cross multiply and divide. Take the diagonal, 2 known numbers. 288 times 9 divided by the unknown, or sorry, divided by the third. So 288 times 9 equals 2,592. Divide by 16, you get 162. Letter A. Okay. All right. I think we're going to turn. I think we got 2 left I want to do. So 56. That'll be like 53. So you can look at that for an example. We did 57. We did 58. 59 would be kind of like the one we just did, number 55. Okay, and now I want to do number 60. And then we'll have one more on the next page. So, it says a garden store is purchasing herbs to sell for spring planting. They will order 2 varieties of mint, spearmint and peppermint. Last year, the store sold 260 spearmint plants, and the store manager noted that the ratio of spearmint to total was 2 to 5. So that's important. Spearmint to total is 2 to 5. Now we could use those numbers, or we might have to figure something else. It says how many peppermint plants were sold. So we need to for sure find, we're looking for peppermint plants. And how many peppermint plants were sold when what? Well, when there were 260 spearmint plants. Okay, so for the unknown pair, we're looking for the number of peppermint when there was 260 spearmint. So now they gave us a ratio of 2 to 5 spearmint to total. So that means that's not what we want. We have peppermint and spearmint. So we're going to keep the spearmint. That's part of it. But the other one we need to know is the peppermint. So spearmint stays 2. Now, if spearmint's 2 and we have 5 total, we need to know how many were peppermint. Well, 2 plus what equals 5? Or you can say, well, we had 5 total. We take out the 2 spearmint. That leaves us 3 for peppermint. So all these numbers should interact somehow. Okay, spearmint stays the same. Your 2 parts should equal your total. So spearmint and peppermint gives you the total of 5. So this is what we need to know or use for our known pair. Now just make sure you put in the right spot. We set this one up as peppermint to spearmint. Now we definitely could have set it up as spearmint to peppermint. Okay, and again, I can show you that again if you're confused on what I mean there. But for this setup, peppermint goes on top, so that's 3. Spearmint goes on the bottom, which was 2. Okay. So what I meant is if you just happen to write down spearmint over peppermint, it would still, you have 260 spearmint, and you wondering how many peppermint then you would just set this up the other way around. There are 2 spearmint, 3 peppermint. Okay, so either one of these setups is fine. Now, because the cross multiply for either one, the diagonal with 2 numbers is the 260 and the 3. So for either way here, we're going to go 260 times 3 divided by the other number. So 260 times 3 is 780 divided by that 2. Okay, it should be a 390. Oops. And it's letter D. Okay. I have one more problem. We did 61. We looked at 62. 63 will be kind of like, I believe, like 61. It's just setting up a ratio. That's like 61. 64 is going to be, I think, kind of like 55. A couple we've done. 65 here is just like up here, number 62. Just seeing which ones are equivalent. And the last one we're going to do is 66 because it looks a little different. Okay. It says a garden supply company sells cages for tomatoes. The cages come in either black or silver. So that's going to be probably 2 things we're going to look at. It says to decide how many of each color to stock, the purchaser looks at the sales from last year and she finds that 3/10 of the cages were silver. Last year, the company sold 270 silver cages. How many cages were black? Okay. So now one of the problems with this one is some people look at this and they say, oh, well, there's only 2 numbers. We have 3/10 and we have 270. Okay. Well, the key here is it says 3/10 of the cages sold were silver. So that means, what that actually means is if we have this fraction 3/10, if 3/10 of the cages sold were silver, that means there was 3 silver when you sell 10 total. That's what that means. So we actually do have 2 numbers here. It's a ratio just set up differently. Instead of writing out 3 to 10, it's 3 silver when there's 10 total. So now let's, just like the other problems, let's figure out what's the unknown pair. Okay. They're looking for how many black when we sell 270 silver. So we can say the 2 of the unknown pair, we're looking at silver and black because it's saying if we have 270 silver, how many are black? So silver of the unknown pair is 270. And we're wondering when we have that, how many are black? So we have to set this up over here, silver and black. Okay, so we have silver in total, but we need silver and black. Oops, right. Silver is 3 for our known pair, so we don't need to change anything there. That's out of 10 total. So if there's 10 total and 3 are silver, so if we have 10 total and we take out the 3 silver ones, that equals 7. So 7 black. So when we have 3 silver, 7 are black. Okay, so again, cross multiply, divide. The diagonal of 2 numbers, 270 times 7 divided by the 3rd number. So 270 times 7 is 1,890 divided by 3. And we get 630 black ones. Okay. So that's a couple examples of each type of the objectives. You should be copy those down, take pictures, send them to me. Then you got a bunch of other problems here you can practice. Okay, now you don't have to do all of them, but you should try quite a few. Make sure you're getting the right answers. Again, the right answers would be back here. Do some problems, check them. Okay, after you do that and you have sent me the pictures of your notes, ask for the test. And again, if you're doing some of the problems and you're not getting them right, ask questions. Okay, some of you guys are doing well with that. Others are not asking questions. Okay, so ask questions if you're not getting them correct. And again, send the pictures of the notes, ask for the tests after you understand them. Let me know if you have questions.